Hi there, my name is Jamil Dabir, and in this video we're going to go over the use of conditional formatting with Microsoft Excel. Before we dive into the next slide, I'm basically just going to describe what conditional formatting is. It's a fairly straightforward tool that more or less what it does is allows you to highlight cells or put indicators on cells that meet certain Boolean or logical criteria. So if that sounds a little abstract, kind of a concrete example would be, let's say an item costs more than $10,000. We could have any item that costs more than $10,000 automatically be highlighted in red using conditional formatting. Or if we wanted to say find the lowest price item in a list and highlight it in green, we could do that using conditional formatting. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's move on to the next slide and just talk about what we're going to look at. So today we're going to go through two main exercises. The first exercise is going to involve using just some real simple basic conditional formatting with a kind of a marketplace or a retail store set up as an example. The second exercise is going to be slightly trickier. It's going to get a little more advanced, use some formulas and cells, things like that. And it's going to involve using conditional formatting with a project budget tracking spreadsheet. Okay, so let's hop over to Excel and get started. So question number one asks us to use conditional formatting to highlight the most expensive item in red. That's question 1A. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of our cells in the price column here, and we're going to go over to conditional formatting. And just for reference, conditional formatting is in the Home tab. So right when you open up Excel, should be right here. And what we're doing is we're actually looking for a top cell. So the most expensive item would be the highest item. It's the top priced item. So we're going to take this top 10 items option. It's a little bit kind of tricky to see what top 10 items would do, but instead of top 10, let's change it to the top 1 item. And the question asked us to highlight the most expensive item in red. So we're going to do that. Let's click OK. Let's click OK. And you can see here the turkey is a $20 item. It looks like it's more expensive than all the other ones, and because we put our rule in, it is now highlighted in red. Okay, so let's set up the rule in question B. So it says use conditional formatting to highlight the least expensive item in green. So again, we're doing the same thing. Go to our conditional formatting tab, top or bottom rule. This time, it's going to be a bottom rule. So let's do bottom 10 items. We only want the bottom one, so we're going to change this from 10 to 1. And it said to highlight the least expensive item in green. So we're going to go here, green fill with dark green text. And okay. So we can see now our ginger got highlighted. Ginger costs $1 at this marketplace. And that looks to be less expensive than everything else. Question 1C, set the value of turkey to $5 and see what happens. So our expectation would be, the turkey won't be the most expensive item anymore. So the cell that's highlighted in red should change. So let's see what happens. $5, enter. Ah, look, so now our pork chop is the most expensive item because it's $10. Okay, question D, set the price of garlic to 50 cents and see what happens. So again, this is kind of the opposite scenario. We're going to assume now garlic is on sale. It's going to become the cheapest item. And our green cell is going to move over from ginger to garlic. So let's see if that happens. So 0.5, that'll give us 50 cents. Push enter. And here we go. Garlic is now highlighted in green. Okay, next part says to clear all the conditional formatting rules from the spreadsheet. That's question E. So let's go to conditional formatting. Down here we got clear rules. Clear rules from entire sheet. Let's do it. There we go. Now the last part, part F, highlight all items that cost more than $2 in green. So this is going to be a slightly different rule, but we start the same way. Let's highlight the cells that we want to have affected by the rule. Let's go to conditional formatting, and we're going to go highlight cell rules. So highlight all items that cost more than $2. So that's going to be a greater than rule. So if the cell format cells that are greater than 2. So that'd be cells that are greater than $2. And it says we want them, the question says we want them highlighted in green. So let's have them highlighted in green. There we go. All of our items that cost more than $2 are highlighted in green. Super. Let's move on to the next part, which is the project tracker. Okay, so question number 1. Use conditional formatting to set up a RAG system on the project budget cells. So RAG stands for red, amber, green, sometimes used just as a quick visual indicator in project management. If you see a project is red, kind of you'd know that there's some kind of a problem. If it's amber, you're probably close to having a problem. Hopefully the project's almost done. You can kind of keep it there. Everything will be okay. And green is like proceed. Maybe you're under budget or you haven't spent the money to get things started. So green is like a keep moving ahead type of thing. Similar to how traffic lights work. So question 1A, if the project budget is less than the committed plus actual spending, the budget cell should be red. So let's go to our project budget here. These are the budget cells. Let's highlight all of these. Let's do a conditional formatting rule. And this one said less than. So highlight cell rules. Let's pick the less than. And we're going to actually put a formula in here as opposed to just this numerical value they have set up by default. So the formula is going to be well, we'll try doing it this way first. We could just pick the cells, and you see what happens there is we end up with those dollar signs in there, and it actually makes things a little trickier than it needs to be. So I like to actually just type the formulas in here. So we're going to go equals just C8, that's what we had before, that's where our committed spending is, plus D8, that's our actual spending. And the question said that those cells should be in red. So C8 plus D8, that means you basically spent more than your budget and your project's in trouble. So we have one project here, the mechanical upgrades is highlighted in red. So this is looking right. Let's click OK. Part B, if the project budget is equal to the committed plus actual spending, the budget cell should be amber or yellow. So let's go to conditional formatting. So on we had equal to, and it's the exact same formula. So we're going to go C8 plus D8, and the question asks for this one to be in amber. So we're going to use yellow. It's set up by default, nice and easy. Okay, part C, if the project budget is greater than the committed plus actual spending, the budget cell should be green. So we got greater than equals C8 plus D8. Oops. Oh, okay, let's erase all of that. C8 plus D8. And we're going to go in green. Okay, and we've got one project in the green. You can see here, we haven't even committed to spend anything on electrical upgrades. We haven't actually spent anything on electrical upgrades, and we have a budget of $250,000. So might want to get started on that. It's in green, spend some money. Probably be a good idea, unless the project start date isn't begun yet. So question 1D says, check to see if the RAG rating of the project budget will update automatically by changing the project budget data. So let's take our electrical upgrades example. That's project number 4. And we'll blow the budget out of the water and see if it changes from green to red. So project 4, we're going to set our actual spending to $300,000. So let's go over here, project budget data. That previous spreadsheet was using a VLOOKUP to pull data directly from this spreadsheet. So we'll change our actual spending to $300,000. There we go. Now let's go back to our project status report. You can see now, electrical upgrades, the budget got blown out of the water, and it's in red now. So let's change that back, because we were just doing that for a little exercise to see what would happen. And let's go to our project status. Okay, so I'm going to change back to green. So it's cool. The conditional formatting updates automatically. I think we've proven that several times in this demonstration. So it's a fairly reliable, robust tool. Question 1E. What are some problems with the RAG system being used on this spreadsheet? Think about earned value management. So this gets into a bit of a trickier project management area. It's not too complicated though. So conceptually what you'd have to think of is imagine this project, the cooling upgrades. It's in amber. Basically, our spending is exactly equal to our budget. But there's a fundamental question that's kind of missing in this spreadsheet. Was the project actually done? How far along are we in terms of completing this project? So is it 80% complete? Is it 100% complete? It doesn't really tell us. So this earned value management idea would take into consideration the idea that maybe this project's only 80% complete. And in that case, we've spent our entire budget and we're only 80% done. So we'd be in a little bit of trouble at that point. So instead of saying amber, things are kind of okay, we should be saying it's in the red. We're having troubles here. So let's move over to this tab here. This is the advanced project budget tracker. This has some of that earned value type of thinking baked into it. You can see over here in column H, we've got a percent complete now. So that's what percent of the project is actually completed, what our earned value is. So we do that pretty simply. We're just taking F5 times H5. So basically it's the project budget multiplied by what percentage of the project has actually been completed. So that changes things around a little bit here. So question 2 says, use conditional formatting to set up a RAG system on the project budget cells. And it says set up a conditional formatting rule that takes project completion percentage or value into consideration. So we'll use this earned value data set here. Let's select all of these tabs, all those cells. Let's go to conditional formatting. Let's go to highlight rules. So let's start with our less than. So if the earned value is less than the total spending equals E5. In that case, we've earned less than we've spent, so our project's in a bit of trouble. We should have it as red. Okay, let's go to conditional formatting. Cell rules, let's do our equal to. This is going to be another easy one, so equals E5. That's our total spending, and we want this to be our amber. That means we've earned exactly how much we spent. And now our last one, conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, greater than. So that means we've actually earned more than we've spent. So the project is like ahead of budget. It's doing really well. So let's put E5, and doing really well, we would want to put it in green. And that's maybe one that we would brag about. So on this project, it's 100% complete. Our total spending is only 100,000 and the project budget is 125,000. So on that one, it would look like we've actually came in under budget. So that'd be really good. All right, let's hop back over to PowerPoint and do a little recap. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, basically the idea with conditional formatting is that if there's some logical Boolean true-false type of condition that is met, we could put some visual indicators on the cell. So that could be changing the color, that could be putting little symbols. There's a whole bunch of different options. I basically just used red, amber, and green in this exercise, in this video, but there's a lot more you could do with it. And some potential applications, if spending on a project exceeds the budget, we could have a cell be automatically highlighted as we showed. You could use this for experimental data maybe. If some data falls out of an expected range, you could change the color of the cell. Or you could also use those top and bottom rules that we were talking about earlier, so you could highlight the highest or lowest values in a data set. Just as a final note, adding visual indicators to your data is generally a pretty good practice. It's going to make it easier for your coworkers, your managers to understand what's going on behind the data. I've been told before, you're trying to convert your data into information. You're trying to turn it into something that's not just a bunch of numbers, and it's something that you can use to communicate a message saying, hey, my projects are under budget, we're doing great, or they're over budget and we need a little help. So with that said, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you learned something useful, and thanks.